Welcome to the Rebound Podcast. My name's Doug Rutter, my co-host Lou Romano. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1. Our guest is Steve Kaplowitz.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
What's happening, guys?
Oh, nothing. It's a busy time of the year. Steve's all crazy about the UTEP basketball team.
Is he?
Jets just got a new coach.
Oh, yeah.
Cowboys made a coaching change. Yeah, a lot going on.
Okay, so what do you think about what the Cowboys did?
Look, I've been saying this for years. Until Jerry Jones is gone, it doesn't matter who is coaching that team.
Yeah.
I love Jerry. Don't get me wrong. He's been great for the league. He's been great for that franchise, for the city.
Yeah.
Some of the things that he's done. And remember, everyone made fun of him with the Pepsi and Coke thing at the stadium, blah, blah, blah. So he's been a maverick, and he's been awesome. And I know the owners love him too. But you know what? Until he gets out of that draft room and stop thinking that he knows how to coach and recruit players, they're not going to be any different now than they were 15, 20 years ago.
Is Prescott quarterbacking in next year?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't see that changing. And by the way, I just got to tell you something. As somebody who's known this man for over 30 years of my life, considering he doesn't shut up, the fact that you've made him a co-host of this podcast is one of the most brilliant decisions that you could actually ever make. So I just want to say that right now. But it's nice to look across and see Lou in a Coronado baseball coach's jacket. He's got an Aggies cap. No Yankee gear, no Notre Dame gear, and those are his other favorite.
They're all
gloves.
dirty. They're dirty.
Boy, Notre Dame got smoked, huh?
Yeah.
But it was close. Like, it went down. Look, that game
Those
was...
two big plays.
It was.
And they don't have a $40 million NIL.
Well, we're going to talk.
now.
We're going to talk about that. You want to go right into that? You know, that's
now.
one of my favorite topics.
When you talk Cowboys for a second, okay, so let's just say that until Jerry dies,
Right.
this is basically par for the course. It's what it's going to be. And when he dies, is Stephen Jones going to take the team over the way Al Davis's son Mark did with the Raiders, or are they finally going to let football people run the team the way every other successful franchise in professional sports
They're gonna
operates?
run it
Exactly.
like their dad ran it.
I don't see Bob Kraft with 25 podcasts and 15 radio interviews and being on the sideline telling players how to play.
Yeah.
Is it Bob Kraft? Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Kraft.
And by the way,
Patriots
that's
guy.
probably why, even though the first name that came out was Deion Sanders, he figured this will never happen because after games, the media would rather hear from Deion
Right,
or
than
now
Jerry.
Coach Prime or Prime than Jerry. And Jerry doesn't want to do that. You don't want to take away from the main star of the show.
So, what do you think about what Deion did in Colorado? Did Deion do it, or
I mean,
did he have the players to do it?
let's put it this way. I feel like in the beginning, when he first came on board and they won those few games, everybody was talking about him. It was fun. It was different. But then reality set in, and he had to play in a conference that's a really good league, and all of a sudden they started losing games. Last year's team was great, but now he lost his son. He lost Travis Hunter, who wins the Heisman. So now what? What's going to happen? Will they have enough NIL to compete? Because we all know that recruiting now is all based on NIL. Retention is based on NIL. College athletics, the way we all know it, is no longer around. Now it's how much money can you raise and how much money can you spend.
Yeah. What is the NIL situation at UTEP? Do we have any NIL?
We do. It's not enough. It's never enough. Problem is...
I mean, how do we take us to where we're not just a springboard to a bigger team?
That'll never happen.
Can't.
That'll never happen.
Can't.
I mean, schools like this, at levels like this, that's what it's going to be. But you got to understand one thing too, Doug, and that is Power 4 schools are springboards. How many guys will play having a great season, and instead of sticking around at a Power 4 school where you're good and you've got a chance to play for a national title, you jump in the portal because you want to get paid. That's just what it is. And those guys aren't like making chump change, but they feel they can make more money. Take Carson Beck. Carson Beck was going to go into the NFL draft, the Georgia quarterback. Decides, you know what? I can make more money spending one more year in college football. So he goes into the portal, goes to Miami. He's probably making $4 million, which is a lot more than the NFL minimum contract for somebody who would be drafted where Carson Beck would be drafted. So he's back in college for a year. So it's weird. What the NIL has done is it's actually allowing guys that would otherwise go pro to stay in college.
Which is a
It's the
good
only
thing.
good thing about the NIL.
Right. But they're only staying in college to
To get
make
paid.
money
Right.
and get paid. That's exactly.
Right.
I saw Manning's getting $6.5 million already.
Is that this next year, or is that what he's made so
That's
far?
what he's made so far.
Yeah, but you guys, two things about the NIL. First of all, you can have, like Oregon, all the money in the world. You still got to get the right players.
Well, the money
Okay.
helps you get the right players.
It does, but you've misfired, and MSU misfired. the guy that was making the most money on the team was on the bench. NMSU is not the only school that's happening everywhere.
So how does NIL work? You get the money and it's yours, or you have a commitment to the school, or?
Every school is different. So NIL, name, image, likeness. You asked about UTEP, for example.
Which is, by the way, ridiculous. Because the starting center for Nebraska, we're not using your name ever. On a calendar, on a video game, whatever. We're not using your image ever. And we're definitely not using your likeness. So you stop calling it NIL and just say that's your paycheck.
Sure.
You're just an employee, so stop with this NIL ridiculousness. That was the original intent,
Yeah.
but it's not anymore.
No, it's not.
But
In
anyhow, go
fact,
ahead.
it's crazy that what gave SMU the death penalty
Right,
40 years ago is now
They were ahead of their time.
Yeah, exactly. It's now being encouraged. That's the name of the game. It's like, think about that.
Well, that's the Pete Rose gambling thing. There's commercials. Want to make $200 first bets are free.
Yeah.
I know. It's so ridiculous. Like, football does not allow you to gamble, but you've got every daily fantasy out there. Now they're going to start putting sports books in stadiums and arenas where you can bet in
the middle of the game.
Things are wrong in sports at all levels, but that's a whole different story. But back to UTEP for a second. UTEP right now, probably, I would say for NIL, about 400 for basketball. And that was really started a few years ago with the Hunt Collectives, and they teamed up and they formed the Minor. I think it was called the Minor Collective. It's about 400,000. And then for football, they had nothing. And then when Scotty Walden got hired, they turned it from nothing to 200,000. But as UTEP gets ready to go in 2 years to the Mountain West from Conference USA, in my mind, you need $1 million in football and you need $1 million in basketball to be competitive. That's what you need. New Mexico has a $1.8 million for just basketball, the Lobos.
Yeah.
And now you've got Patino's son there, and you've got a good team. But think about that: $1.8 million just for basketball,
And the stadium and the arena naming rights.
That's right.
That's
right.
Doug, these idiots at the NCAA should have seen this coming because we did. And I remember us talking about it. They should have seen this coming the minute Texas left the Southwest Conference back in, 90s?
Yeah.
That's when the NCAA guys should have said, okay, wait a minute, we're going to let Texas go. All right, but hang on. Let's look down the road. They never looked down the road. Left the Southwest Conference, not the Big 12, the Southwest Conference. That's when the lights should have started going off with these geniuses at the NCAA. But getting back to your point about UTEP, so Steve, take all of your mid-majors. All right, so let's pretend you're Louisiana Tech, you're UTEP, I'm New Mexico State. All right? So
Because of the hat?
Because of the hat.
He is New Mexico State.
Okay,
Tech.
I'm
Yes.
Louisiana Tech. All right? So your mid-major schools.
Yeah.
You just said never. Doug asked you, when do we stop becoming a springboard? Never. And he's right. It'll never happen. But there has to be some kind of compensation in there. So if your son is playing for, El Dorado High or Del Valle High.
Or Eastwood.
Eastwood, right. Doug's an Eastwood grad. All right. So a scout happens to be at that game looking at the other team's quarterback, and your son has a crazy good game. After the game, that scout walks over, hey, young Rutter, you had a hell of a game. They also got some size, some speed. Who's looking at you? Nobody. Oh, you know what? I've got a spot for you at Louisiana Tech, UTEP, New Mexico State, whatever, mid-major, right? So nobody was recruiting that kid. I rolled the dice and I took you and I brought you into my system. I surrounded you with good players, good coaches. I put you in a position, maybe I threw you a few bucks, and I put you in a position to succeed. You're first or second team all conference. By UTEP, by Louisiana Tech, by New Mexico State, I'm getting more money from Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, whatever. That's fine, A&M. You want my receiver? In exchange, I want 50 grand. Give me a couple of backup linebackers, and give me a receiver that you were looking at.
So you're turning it into just an absolute...
But that's what it is. You're paying them. So just like in the real world, if you want to be paid, you've got to buy me out if you're taking me away from where I've committed to. So that starts with the players have to sign 2-year contracts. You're going to stay anyway.
But that's not how it is now.
No.
They can leave like now.
So some schools, some schools are smart and they make these NIL deals monthly. And they say, you know what? We'll give you this amount, but it's going to come monthly, and you got to do this, you got to do that, right? Others the crazy ones just give them the lump sum in advance, which I think is insane. Like, why would you give somebody money if a month or 2 months, if they don't like it, they leave and they keep your money, and now all of a sudden there's no accountability.
It's absolutely ridiculous how they're doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and if, like I said, when there's a compensation package to it, and like Steve said, if you do it monthly, well, now let's pretend we're recruiting Steve. You're a school saying we're giving you your NIL monthly. I'm like, Steve, hang on, I'm going to give it to you up front. You go and tell your mom and dad at 18, 19 years old, Lou's going to give me the $1 million right now. We've got it. Doug's going to give you $100,000 a month for the next 10 months. I'll take the $1 million. It's just like winning the lotto.
Yeah.
So now you lost him as a recruit. I got him because I'm paying him now. You're paying him in monthly installments. Are you serious? But you don't want to treat these guys as pros? That's a professional thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I've had it.
Now, let me say this, okay? What Joe Golding did this year is nothing short of amazing. He took every single scholarship player from last year's team, which was 10.5 minutes away from winning the championship of the conference tournament and going to the NCAAs, and he brought them all back intact. He only lost walk-ons this offseason.
Yeah, very
now,
difficult.
You think about that. Exactly. In today's age of NIL, it is so tough to get a team that's good and get them to all buy in, come back one more year, and not leave.
Yeah, you know what? That's underrated. I'm glad you brought that up. That
So
is
is this
almost
our
impossible.
year?
I mean, it's so hard to say because it's a one bid league. So is it UTEP's year? I don't know. It could be New Mexico State's year. Heck, it could be Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State. You know, Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech. Those are the schools that are predicted to be at the top of the league. And Liberty, they're all at the bottom right now as we tape this of Conference USA. You've got Middle Tennessee with 1 loss. UTEP, New Mexico State, Kennesaw State, and Jacksonville State all tied with 2 losses. It's the weirdest league.
Those were D2 schools last year.
I know. Exactly.
Were they really?
Yeah, Kennesaw's in their first year.
It's so crazy to understand and really, so I can't predict this. Is it UTEP's year? I'll say this. Joe Golding built this team for it to be UTEP's year, but it's all about how you play in March and how you play in the conference tournament because this league will never get more than 1 team in.
Right.
So what this time of the year is in January and February, if you're good, you can draw a crowd, you can make some money on attendance, and you can bring in some money for your program. But the truth is that as far as these basketball teams go, it's whoever is the hottest team come the tournament.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to be UTEP's year because
It could be.
It could be New Mexico State's. Heck, for all we know, Kennesaw State or Jacksonville State could win the whole thing. You just don't know.
Yeah, it's impossible to predict, especially Conference USA.
So then the transfer portal, how does that play into all this? Is that one of those things that you can have a bad day at practice and go put your name in and be gone?
Yeah.
Because what's happened is not only has NIL given athletes all the power, but the portal has given them the opportunity to go in. Now, you can't go in all the time. There's only certain periods now you can go in. But athletes can transfer as many times as they want. They don't have to sit out. What the NCAA has basically done is given the student athlete as much power as you and control as you possibly can.
All the power.
It's why all these coaches are retiring.
That's why Saban left.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to deal with this either.
Yeah, because this is not coaching.
Can you imagine it on Saban's level what it was?
Could you imagine if Don Haskins was still coaching at this time of year and saw this? He'd be like, "The hell with this, I'm out."
Right. Yeah. It's the NIL when it gets into the transfer portal. This is the mistake a lot of coaches are making with the portal. So Steve, you're the player. Doug, you're the coach. Steve comes to you at the end of the year. Coach, listen, that was a nice season and everything, but I'm going into the transfer portal. Your mistake is getting mad at him for doing that. Oh, fine. Okay, go ahead. Go into your portal. Go ahead. Go. Let's pretend Steve doesn't get picked up anywhere. Yep. He comes back. Hey, Coach, yeah, I'll be back.
It's too late.
Why is it too late? You're being a jerk. That's not right. You know why? Because if you went to Steve and said, hey, Louisville's looking at me, I'm thinking about going there, he can't tell you to stay.
That's true.
So you're the coach, you can go, but he's the player, he can't. The mistake the coaches are making is getting mad at the player. What they should say is, you know what, Steve, you had a good year. Yeah, go for it. But you know what? Give me an answer in 2 months. Because if you're not going to be here, I got to find somebody to replace you. Now, Steve goes out, and other players are like, hey, what'd Coach Rutter say? Oh, Coach said, yeah, it's cool for me to go look. Now you get that reputation of being a cool coach. So if he doesn't get picked up, he comes back and maybe calls one of his buddies and says, you got to play for Coach Rutter. He's awesome.
Yeah.
If I'm coaching right now in college athletics, okay, at any sport, any level, I should prepare myself that I've got a new roster every single year. Every year. It's the John Calipari model. Except Cal he had one and done guys because he was so, he always got the young guys that would go to the NBA.
Right.
Nowadays, this is what it's turned into. If you get a player for more than a year that's a contributing player, that's a bonus. That's a lucky bonus.
Steve, remember Coach Terry, Rodney Terry? How many guards did he have on that team at one time? 6?
Yeah.
So finally, during one of the shows I was hosting with Rodney Terry, I'm like, Coach, remember we're taping next Thursday. Oh, I can't. I'll be recruiting. I'm like, Coach, you got 15 guards on this team, 40 centers. Always recruiting, Lou, always recruiting. I didn't understand what he meant. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're 6-7 games into the season. You got your team. Yeah. What he meant was these guys are going to be bailing. I need to always be. He was right. Rodney Terry was right.
You got to have a reserve.
He was always recruiting.
How are they doing, UT this year?
I haven't kept up with them.
They're not doing what UT is expecting them to do. Let's put it this way. Now, the SEC is the best conference in basketball.
Right.
It's unbelievable. Look at what Chris Jans is doing at Mississippi State. He's been terrific.
Chris Jans.
And you got Beard at Ole Miss and Jans at the state of Mississippi is crazy for basketball right now. But, I mean, unless UT makes a run into the tournament, I don't know how Rodney comes back. It's so difficult right now, and there's expectations for the amount of money that Texas has and what Texas spends for sports, especially basketball. They're expecting Sweet 16 or better every year.
Okay, so wait. So if Terry's gone, okay, if they don't have a nice run, Ryan Day, a month ago, they wanted him out of Ohio State, like dead. They wanted to shoot him in the head. He goes and wins a national title. So you're telling me if Day doesn't win the title, he's gone? Is that what it's come to because of this money ridiculousness?
Well, remember,
Ryan Day had a great season.
He did, but he lost to Michigan. He always loses to Michigan. And as crazy as that sounds. Now, if it was me, if it's me, I'll take a loss to Michigan and trade that out for winning a national title any day of the week. But that's why the rumor about Day being gone was because he can't beat Michigan. Well, who cares? You just won the national title. It shouldn't matter.
Right, but what I'm saying is UT, if they didn't have this collective with this NIL ridiculousness and the money, is Rodney Terry still gone? 15 years ago, is a coach like Rodney Terry gone?
Of course
without
not.
He'd still be there.
Yes.
Right. So do you see what this NIL is doing? Now you're costing Rodney Terry, whether you like him or not. It's not the point. You're costing a coach's career because we've given you so much money, you should be winning.
That's what they think.
Dodgers have 2 World Series in the last, 30 years? The Mets have a high payroll. Yankees have none.
Don't get me started about the Dodgers. Don't get me started about the Dodgers.
Why?
I mean, it's gone stupid.
They're stacked.
They are stacked. They're so stacked that you kind of wonder, well, who's going to be out? Because they've got too much. They have too much right now at every position. They just built their bullpen into an insane bullpen.
Insane.
When they brought Tanner Scott, and we got some extra money. Let's just bring Kirby Yates back. He was one of the best relievers in baseball a few years ago. Sure, we'll add him to the mix.
This is a Mets fan complaining about a team spending money.
Well, yes.
Hang on.
Because there's a reason for that, okay? The Mets have all the money, right? They've got an owner with more money than God.
Right.
And yet they just spent an enormous amount of money to grab Juan Soto, but they haven't spent more to surround him with players in the lineup to win the division or be competitive.
Smarter with their money than Cohen is?
Well, right now it sure looks like it, doesn't it?
I know, but is that what the game has come to? Is who's smarter with their dollars?
Has it ever been different than that?
The Dodgers are brilliant. Whoever convinced Ohtani to sign and backload $680 of his $700 million over a 10-year period and make it deferred so they can use all that money to continue to add players.
Which is wrong.
It is wrong, but
it's a genius.
But it's genius is right,
Yeah,
because
it's right.
since
You're right.
baseball
You're right.
doesn't have any rules against that,
The
it's
luxury
a brilliant
tax
move.
was supposed to stop that. The Dodgers said, we don't care, we'll pay whatever.
Right.
Okay, and that's okay,
Yes.
It's within the rules. So here's what baseball needs to do. First of all, you can't have international play. I don't care where you're coming from, Japan, South America. It's a draft. You can't just have one team signing every single guy that comes from out of the U.S. So number one, you got to have a draft. Number two, you need a basement and a cap. You need a cap and a basement. So Cincinnati, The basement this year is $90 million. If you can't put $90 million worth of players on that field, because a lot of these owners are putting that money in their pocket.
Sure.
So the Dodgers are going to share what they got from the World Series, whatever the collective bargaining says, we give money to the other teams. I need to see that in writing on that field, not in your pocket so you can go buy a yacht. So if you have a draft for the international guys, the Chicago White Sox should have had a shot at who's the latest Japanese guy the Dodgers signed?
Oh, yeah, you're talking about Roki Sasaki.
Okay, he should be with the White Sox. He should be with the White Sox.
He should be.
Right? And you can't do this, hey, we're going to pay you $1 million now, and in 10 years we'll give you... No, you need a contract right now, a certain amount of years, certain per year. You do that, and you can fix this. Baseball's spending more time making the bases bigger and telling the pitchers you can't throw over there more than twice than you are... And the Dodgers are owned by a hedge fund. Wrong, illegal. You cannot be a brokerage house or a hedge fund and own a sports team. Because those guys are so smart with the dollars that they figured this out.
They have figured it out.
Cohen's not an idiot.
No, Cohen's not an idiot. But he's got a general manager who came from Milwaukee, where they were basically bargain shopping, and now look, I'll give you an example. Pete Alonso should be a Met his entire career, right? Pete Alonso is a free agent. He's still a free agent. And the rumor is he's going to Toronto or the Angels, and the Mets aren't going to bring him back. Why? Because the Mets don't feel Pete Alonso is worth more than $25 million a year. So they've offered him a 3-year contract between $68 and $70 million. And he said no. And the fact is, if you've got the kind of money that the Mets have and Steve Cohen has, and you just brought in Juan Soto, you got to give him some protection in the order. So why are you penny pinching on a $7 to $8 or $10 million? The
Dodgers would never do that.
No, over 3 years,
Right.
they're going to pay what these guys are worth. So you know what? If you've got to overpay Pete Alonso a little bit, hey, he's been a good Met. He represents the club the way it should be. Give him the money. Keep him on board.
Fans like him. He's not a pain in the ass.
Exactly.
Doesn't cause any problems.
And now that Juan Soto's on board, Pete Alonso won't be the focal point of the Mets offense. Soto will be.
Right.
And if you give Alonso a chance to be hitting as a supporting role, he's going to do fine.
Takes the pressure off.
And that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. You've got an owner with more money than anybody in baseball. And yet now all of a sudden you're trying to decide, well, I don't want to give an extra couple $1 million to one of my best stars. It's a stupid way to handle things.
Yeah. Baseball closer to home. What's going on with the Chihuahuas?
I mean, listen, this organization has figured out a way to run it year after year, and they've got a model that's successful and it works. They've got all these different mini plans. They've kept the family level of entertainment up. It's not about winning and losing with AAA baseball. We've tried to explain that to people from the very beginning. When you're developing players, whether they're vets or young players, the winning is the bonus in AAA. It really is. You obviously want to win, but you're not so much worried about winning. So when the Chihuahuas play, their concept is, let's make it the most family entertainment for your dollar you're going to get.
A social event.
Exactly. So because think about this. How many times when you go to a game and you leave, you're like, hey, did Chihuahuas win? Nobody cares. They don't know. They don't care.
Nobody knows.
They just want to have fun at the ballpark. They want to go and say for 2 hours, it's entertainment. And they've done a really, really good job with that. So
I wish Little League coaches would have the same philosophy. We're here to develop players instead of worrying about wins and losses.
It's disgusting.
It's
gone out of control.
Oh, my God.
Youth baseball. Youth baseball.
Well, but I mean, when is NIL going to be in high school?
It's already
high school
started.
Sports.
It's already started. It's already started.
They've been paying players under the table for years when it comes to high
I
school
heard
athletics.
a local school district here, I can't remember which one, is already putting NIL money away because of the KJ Lewis types. The ones who came here have a lot of talent, but the El Paso competition isn't where it needs to be, so they end up leaving like he did and went to Duncanville or wherever he went, somewhere in Dallas.
Okay.
So now they're putting NIL dollars away to keep high school players here.
Well, let me tell you something. If you really want to keep high school players here, what you need to do is start consolidating these high schools.
Oh, my God.
Because when you start consolidating and you increase the talent pool that certain schools will have, and there'll be a deeper, more stacked team, in the playoffs, they'll have a chance to get out of area. Or even by district.
That's the only reason we won back when we won. It's because all the kids went to Eastwood.
You had a loaded team.
Today you'd go to America, Socorro, Montwood, Hanks.
Yeah. There's 40 high schools in El
You got
Paso.
entirely too
Think
many
about
high
that.
schools.
Too many high schools and the talent is spread out too much.
100%.
So
Bowie and Jeff should be one school. Irvin, Andrus, Chapin. Why doesn't Chapin have a football stadium?
Why did
Who
it take,
told them they don't need a football stadium?
Why did it take Franklin so many
Yeah.
years to build a football stadium and get out of Coronado?
Coronado's
Yes.
house. I know.
It makes no sense.
I don't understand.
But Chapin makes no sense.
Not to me. It doesn't.
Not only that,
and I like
you
Chapin.
could have a beautiful football stadium right off of 54. So as you're playing, you got that beautiful view. I mean, it's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
We have entirely too many high schools. Eastwood's down the street from Bel Air, right? Which is down the street from Hanks. I'm like, hey, what are we doing here?
I know. And then people complain, well, why can't high school football teams get past the first round of the playoffs? Have you seen how many schools you have?
Right.
And it's terrible right now because it's getting worse and worse and worse, and it's not right. And you should be starting to consolidate because until that happens, you've got a 12-0 high school football team that gets bounced by a team with an under 500 record.
Yeah, 63 to
Right.
2.
Yes,
Right.
in the buy district.
Right.
And you're looking like, this makes
I
absolutely
actually
zero
looked into that a
sense.
little bit, Cap, and I think it's the dollars. You know how, like, if you have a certain amount of absences, then you get less money from the state. So if you're a high school and you reported X amount of absences, your students overall, sophomores through seniors, whatever, if you get X amount of absences, that cuts the amount of money that you get. That's why we have so many school districts: Clint, Canutillo, EPISD, YSD, SISD. San Elizario's got its own school district. Who am I leaving out? There's at least 7 of them around here. San Eli's we got so many school districts.
Doesn't Fabens have their own district?
Yes, Fabens.
Gadsden?
So, yeah. So we got 500 school districts
I know.
with 50 different high schools. Over the summer, I was traveling with a baseball team. We played at a field at a high school where, are you ready for this? Remember, this is during the summer, so it's warm. There was a swimming pool right by the baseball field. And the people who were running the front desk were employees of that school. So this is a high school where our team happens to be playing at. So I just happened to ask them, like, hey, what's with the pool? Is that a public pool? Oh, no, that's for the school. I go, oh. And she said, see inside that building? There's another one. I go, you got 2 swimming pools? I said, yeah. I said, well, the public doesn't use that? You know who uses those 2 pools? Their men's and women's polo team. High school. It's got a men's and women's polo team.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get football helmets out at Bowie.
Yeah.
But this school's got two swimming pools for the men's and women's polo teams.
Sure.
Are you serious with that?
Where was this?
It was somewhere near San Antonio.
Wow.
I can't remember the exact school district. My point is, because they don't have 500 high schools, the dollars all go to this school district. That's why we got 2 pools, and we're going to play some water polo. Hey, here we go. I'm like, are you kidding?
Exactly. And by the way, just very quickly, in 2012, we passed the quality of life bond issue. It took City Hall to be raised and turned into Southwest University Park, which, again, love that move, love that decision. The arena will never get built, and that's gone, right? So we already know that.
Right.
But when it was quality of life, and I feel bad because in 2012, my son was just born. Had I been where I am now then, I would have been advocating like crazy to get the city to raise money so we could build complexes for basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball. We don't have them in the city. That's why everybody leaves town. He said he went to an out-of-town tournament. Why? Because we don't have anything here to host. Right. You've got the sports park for baseball over there off Zaragoza. It's fine, but it's not nearly enough. It's in one side of town, and that's it. And they run their own leagues, so they don't have a ton of time for tournaments. But if you would have put together a large complex for baseball, softball, volleyball, and basketball, the amount of money in tourism dollars that would have come here to the city.
Get it. Steve, they don't get it.
It drives you crazy.
I'm wondering how many people, who's in charge of that? Is that city council or is it the county?
Both. The county runs
the
county runs the sports park. The city runs the parks fields over here, and I don't know. I don't know who runs Canutillo. That one I have no idea.
Yeah, Doug, it's out of control. The dollars that we're missing out on, because I wanted to start the Apo Taco tournament here in El Paso. Use a couple of different fields. Everyone knows what Apo Taco is. It fits in with El Paso. Maybe the winner or the 2 teams that play for the championship of each age group get giant tacos, whatever it might be. Do you know how many people would come here for that? You would get everybody from Dallas, Midland, Odessa, Lubbock, Albuquerque, Denver, and probably some schools from California every month or every 2 months. Mm-hmm. You know what that would do for our hotels and our restaurants? Because El Paso's like a novelty to a lot of these people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Oh, Chico's Tacos, right?
Yeah.
It's the first thing they think of, right? We get an and they blew it with Cohen Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can understand they didn't want to take anything away from what was going on downtown.
What should they have done with Cohen?
Cohen Stadium should be a stadium like Steve says. You could have had soccer there, soccer tournaments, boys and girls, 4 or 5 age groups, 10, 12, 14U, whatever, however you want to do it.
Yep.
Use different fields around the city for your prelims. Championship round is at Cohen Stadium this Saturday for soccer. The 10 and unders go at 8 a.m. The 12 and unders go at 1. The 14 and unders go at 3. Right?
Yeah.
Then the following month, it's the baseball guys. The following month, it's the softball. Our city people don't get it. That these crazy parents, and I'm one of them, will freaking pay it. They'll fly here, drive here, rent cars, stay at our hotels, and eat our food.
Sure.
Just to watch Johnny hit a single in the 7th inning.
Yeah. So
I'm like, are you kidding?
So you already had the parking lot. I mean, that was already there. At
Yeah,
Cohen
yeah.
Stadium.
that was part of the
It was
stadium.
built in for you. Now I'm going to go different with Lou on this, okay? Because I was saying for years when you got rid of Cohen Stadium, turn it into an outdoor amphitheater for concerts.
Okay.
And
Okay.
just like you have these sled
Because
up with that.
Okay.
everybody jumps El Paso and goes to Albuquerque.
Yep.
Concert
I know.
wise.
Right.
I know.
Because we don't
And
have
I-
any place to do it.
And I thought that would have been the
That would have
perfect
been great.
venue. You already had it. All you had to do was just retrofit it and make it a 15,000 seat outdoor
Right.
amphitheater, and it would have been
That would
absolutely
have been great.
perfect.
The only reason I would have been against that and more for the sports is because I thought the SAC could be your amphitheater. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful play. I know they got the steel benches for seats, but so what? Concerts at the original SAC.
Yeah.
Concerts at the perfect size, perfect layout, perfect parking, everything, the whole thing. I thought the SAC would have been perfect for concerts. But if they put an amphitheater in instead of the tournaments, I don't know what the dollars
But
is. It
just
seems like the tournaments would be more money. But I don't
Think
know.
of how much we have seen the west side of this city grow, but they didn't put a complex on the west side that would have had the baseball, the
It's ridiculous.
softball, basketball, volleyball. Yet all this land, they've grown unbelievable. And Far East too. And they don't put it there. And now you're giving all these other cities dollars that should have been here, and then you could have had everybody come in here. Like, to me, when you're looking about the quality of life issue, Bond, from 2012, by far and away, that was the biggest miss that nobody thought of at the time,
Yep.
and they should have.
Yep. I mean, it's really unbelievable, and I still can't get a straight answer as to why that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Nobody's given me a straight answer that makes sense as to why it hasn't happened. It's a shame. Look at our weather here. You can play
know.
baseball and soccer tournaments through Thanksgiving.
Yep, you could.
You know, start up again in February.
Yeah.
You know, those soccer guys are tough. They'll play in it. Instead of they play now, the high schools, they're playing in 30 below.
But how
wind
competitive
chills.
is our Little League baseball here?
You know, it's hard to tell. Everyone says the east side is better, blah, 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 blah. I've seen teams from the west side go over there and win. I just think it's because you got more people living there, so obviously you're going to have more players.
But I mean, could we compete?
Who knows? I don't know.
I
We don't have a true
I
league.
took a team of basketball kids up to Albuquerque to play in an AAU tournament. We didn't get the ball across half court line.
But again, I blame part of this because there
bad.
aren't enough facilities
Right.
for kids to play. If you have more facilities, and that would grow more leagues and more kids wanting to play, you'd see better talent. But when you don't have as much to offer, it's difficult.
I agree. That's where it all starts.
But that's what I mean. So can our Little League baseball compete with Albuquerque baseball? Little League baseball.
I mean, I've seen teams from El Paso go there and win Albuquerque tournaments.
Yeah.
You know, but the
yeah.
point is we're not generating dollars. You know, the talent level, yeah, we can play with anybody. I mean, you know, America's Isle play with anybody.
I've got friends that are playing on a 13U baseball team, and they go to Phoenix and they win. They'll beat teams from all over the Southwest. So
Wow.
there are good teams. Now, I'm not saying every team will do that. They're probably one of the top teams at their age group in this area, and they've put that together and they've played together over years. But the average, most teams aren't able to do that. But the good ones, the real good ones, absolutely
They'll
compete
compete
with other
yeah,
cities.
Yeah.
That's not the question. The question is why don't we have tournaments here?
Yeah.
Why do we have to leave town to go play somebody?
Yeah.
And the funny part is in high school, 2 years ago, Coronado went to a tournament in Lubbock. We played East Lake. Like, it's a 20-minute ride. We drove to Lubbock to play. He's like, hi. I'm like, this is what? You know, but that's just the way the tournament happened to fall. Yeah. But my point is we shouldn't have to leave town. We could generate dollars from a business standpoint here. You could have boys and girls soccer at Cohen. You could have. Yeah. And you could have baseball and softball. So imagine those tournaments every month or two.
Yeah.
You know what kind of money you're bringing in?
Oh.
All those hotels and restaurants off 54, they close early.
And you know what? We kept hearing the rumors, well, Sunland Park was going to build. Sunland Park was going to build. And I kept thinking, well, maybe this would actually give El Paso the chance to try to get something in motion. No, nothing's happened. Nothing's happened at Sunland, and nothing's happened here in El Paso. So in the last 3 years, since those rumors really surfaced, zero has taken place.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
So let me give you my take on
what?
Here's what's wrong with the Yankees. Here's why I don't watch the NFL anymore. You know?
Who's going to win tomorrow? NFL-wise.
Yeah, so this is we're taping this before the Final Four of the NFL. By the way, I got a bone to pick with you and that Lane guy.
Of course you do. Always.
You guys, hang on, Doug. You guys had me on your show or Lane's show.
It was Lane's show.
At the start of the NFL season.
If you're on with my show, there wouldn't be any issues.
And I said... and I said, the NFL stinks. I'm tired of hearing about parity, blah, 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 blah. There are maybe 3 teams that have a shot at the Super Bowl this year. And I named them. Kansas City, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and I threw the 49ers in there. So I was off by 1 team. These guys made fun of me. Oh, what are you talking about? The Eagles stink. The Eagles stink. The Eagles are in the Final Four.
Who would have thought Barkley was going to have the year he had?
Yeah, right. No, yeah. But my point is the NFL does stink. I've had it. From the don't hit me, I'm running out of bounds, don't hit me, I don't want to be tackled, to the dropped balls. How many? I told you guys this a year or 2 ago. They're good athletes, not good football players, and there's a big difference. And it's right in front of you. The guy from the Ravens dropped the ball, hit him in the stomach. Right? I'm not singling him out.
That was Mark Andrews.
Any game you watch the amount of guys that drop balls.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. There's a lot of drop balls. But the truth is the cream rises to the top. Okay. And that's what we've seen.
Okay, now,
outside of Washington, that's what we've seen again this year.
Okay, now define to me the crown of the helmet rule, whichever one they decide to use this week. Explain that rule to me, the targeting. Go ahead. What's targeting?
Targeting is when you go after a person and you hit them in their helmet, like a head-to-head, like a helmet-to-helmet hit.
Okay, if that's the definition.
Or you launch yourself at somebody and you launch into them where they're defenseless.
Every single game I watch, in the first quarter it's a penalty, in the second quarter it's not. In the third quarter it's a penalty, in the fourth quarter it's not.
Regular season or playoffs?
Doesn't matter.
Well, it does, because I'll tell you right now, like you watch these playoff games, right? They're all-star crews of officials that haven't worked with each other during the season. So I almost expect it to be bad. Because when you've got a crew of people and they're used to being around each other for 17 weeks or 18 weeks, and then the playoffs come and you're given an all-star crew and you don't know all the nuances of everybody and they're expecting you. I've never understood why sports does this. Like, if you've got a good crew during the season and you want to reward them, absolutely. Let them all work together so they already know each other. Why would you possibly pull people from all these different crews and then expect them to get it right when they haven't done it with each other?
I know, but we got the replay, number one. Number two, you tell me if all 3 of us right now go and ref a basketball game down at the rec center. I haven't reffed a basketball game ever. You tell me I can't see traveling when I see it?
Yeah, but
we have had to work together all year for us to identify traveling?
Yeah, but football's different.
They can't get the targeting thing right.
You could also
either if my helmet touches your helmet, it's a flag, or it's not. And the ridiculousness with the quarterback, what Mahomes is doing, is BS. You can't act like you're running out of bounds and fake a throw and hey, I'm freaking hitting you. So stop being wussies and just freaking hit the guy. I promise you, he won't fake that pass again.
Are you upset with the calls against Mahomes? Do you feel like Mahomes is getting preferential treatment?
Oh, there's no doubt, but it's been going on all year. It's magnified now because everyone's watching him. But it's been happening all year. It's to the point where I put the NFL on the TV, I turn the sound down. And I glance up from time to time, so I might look up, that's not a flag. Then the 3 guys go over and they take a look at it, and they come out with something. We all saw there was a penalty, except for the 3 guys who get paid to tell you whether it's a penalty. So I've had it with the NFL.
So how did the first year of the college playoff go for you?
You know, I liked it.
I liked it.
You know what's funny though? Think about this: if you had the Final 4 teams like prior to this year, the 4 teams that got into the semifinals and the championship wouldn't even have been in the playoffs. So that's what the expanding to 12 shows you. It gives more programs an opportunity. Now, here's what's even weirder, guys. The 4 teams that had byes all lost. All lost.
Wow.
So that also makes you wonder, is it even worth having byes? Because I've heard that what you should do is just have 16 teams, no byes, and that way everybody's playing every week, so you're not having to worry about having a week off and maybe starting cold against a team that's already playing.
Right.
And just nitpicking, ASU was a 2 seed, 3 seed?
They were,
I think a 3 seed.
I think they were a 3 seed.
Okay, so if you're a 3 seed, are you telling me that's the 3rd ranked team in the country? If they're the 3 seed,
I know.
They weren't the number 3 team in the country.
No.
So I think that's the only thing that's a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
If you're the average person, you and I both understand why they're the 3 seed. But they're not the number 3 team in the country. So how they get a 3 seed?
Here's something I would do to change the playoffs. Okay, I know that from a travel standpoint, it's difficult. But I would still have the bowls now, like the Sun Bowl, Tony Tiger Sun Bowl, host first round games.
Yep.
Because you want to know something? People say, well, you're not going to have enough time to travel. This city supports that game no matter who's playing year after year. So if it comes down to it, 80% of the crowd's going to be from El Paso anyway. And if they knew that they were getting a chance to host a first round game, these tickets would be sold out even before the teams were announced.
Oh, and by the way, you won't have star players sitting out.
Yeah.
That's true too.
Right?
That's
it's
true.
It's a playoff game.
Although I don't. They need to change the transfer portal window and not have it in December. I'll give you a case in point. Penn State. Mm-hmm. Penn State had a terrific run, right? And their backup quarterback went into the portal during the playoffs because, as they said, if he doesn't go, then and the window closes while the playoffs are going, he might not have the same opportunities for NIL and a landing spot as he would if he goes after spring ball. So what happens? Penn State loses their backup quarterback. What if Drew Allard gets hurt? They're screwed. So it's like that's a problem. That's back to NIL.
The NCAA
that's
can't figure this
issue.
out. That's why these old guys who don't know what they're doing just can't get in a room. We 3 could figure this out in about an hour with a grease board and a couple of markers.
Yeah.
These guys can't figure it out. It's really unbelievable. And you know what? It's got to start with telling the athlete no. No. We've forgotten how to say no in sports.
We have.
The athletes have all the power. Oh, but no, you're not transferring. This is a 2-year contract. You don't like it? Go play for somebody else. Next. That's what needs to happen. If they started with no, we'd make a lot more progress and things would make more sense.
They gave the student athletes everything right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's very difficult now to
get it back.
Exactly.
Right.
Because think about it. They went from having nothing to having everything overnight. So now how do you suddenly tell them no? It's a difficult thing to do.
Or you do what Diego Pavia did. Hey, man, what's this eligibility ridiculousness? You're stopping me from getting paid. Oh, judge, right?
Yeah.
Using regular law, not sports law, regular law. Yeah, you can't stop him from getting paid. Yeah, he's got another year eligibility.
And by the way,
he won.
This is not what Diego Pavia. People don't even understand this. If I was any student athlete who spent any time in junior college, not just in the past, like period, I would sue to get my years back of eligibility.
And you'll win.
Yes,
because the judge used regular penal law.
Right.
Okay, so why aren't regular penal laws being used in sports?
Yeah.
You want to come steal my player? Give me compensation. I mean, it's these NCAA guys drive me crazy. How stupid
But it doesn't even appear to be on their target. The NCAA doesn't seem to be worried about it at the upper level.
They're not.
You know?
They're not. And have you noticed whenever they hand out these trophies for national championships, the NCAA name is not on the trophy?
No.
Yeah.
Why?
Because the college football playoff is not associated or
Right,
affiliated
right.
with the NCAA.
Oh, but
it's
the
its
season
own
has been
entity.
at the playoffs.
Yeah, it's its
What
own
the hell's
entity.
going on here?
Yeah, it's listen, it's crazy. And by the way, Ohio State spent $20 million to build their roster. Just let that comprehend for a second, all right? We're talking about UTEP with $200,000 in combined NIL, and this program has $20 million to spend.
Well, look at Oregon.
Yeah, it's unlimited.
It's unlimited.
Isn't that what Bill Belichick also said when he went to North Carolina? Please give me the largest NIL pool that I can have to try to go out and recruit student athletes.
Yeah.
So,
How's he going to do?
man, that's a good question.
I can't tell.
I mean, the whole situation is crazy. Like him coaching college for the first time
He's
ever.
so old school. With
He is-
today's players, I don't know.
But I'll say this: the ACC is a winnable league, as we all know.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
seen what happened.
yeah.
There's only a handful of
Yeah.
teams that you really look at as elite in the ACC. So he's got a shot if he can put together a talented enough roster, and he already has a good group of assistant coaches, including his son, who's going to be the DC. So I'm interested to see how this goes.
Yeah, me too. I just don't see his ways. Like you watch the clips that they send out when Belichick's yelling at his players.
Yeah.
When he was coaching the Patriots, those clips are now coming out now. Whatever. The stuff
Even
is
Brady.
on. Yeah, even Brady. I don't know if Belichick can get away with that with today's kid, because today's kid's like, you know what? I'm tired of you riding me. I'm out of here.
Transfer portal.
But Belichick will say, "There's the door."
Exactly right. Hey, by the
know what I
way,
mean?
this is an interesting question. I already know your thoughts on the NFL. I know you probably hate baseball and you hate the NBA right
Hate
now.
the NBA more than anything.
More than the NFL.
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
watch?
what about
Professional
you?
wrestling? What is it these days that you're actually watching for sports entertainment?
College football.
Okay.
And I'll watch the Yankees.
And that doesn't. But that also bothers you. College football bothers you for NIL. So everything.
It's starting
so
to,
at this point,
yeah.
everything. There's nothing pure anymore.
No.
That's what stinks. There's nothing pure about sports like there used to be. You want to know what's pure? Go on YouTube and go watch sports back 20, 30 years ago, and you'll see things there that's kind of what we all grew up with when none of this stuff was
Right.
a big deal like it is now.
Right.
Which is why you got something like the WNBA that's sneaking its way in.
And by the way, good for them. Good that they're getting the money that they haven't had for years. But understand this: that league's running a loss every single year, including this past year. Caitlin Clark comes in. You've got all the hype, all the talk. They lost $40 million.
Yeah.
How? How does the WNBA lose $40 million when their athletes aren't making the salaries they should be making? Tickets are expensive, and it's not an easy ticket to get. The league is getting more popularity than they've ever gotten before. So how is the WNBA losing $40 million?
I can't explain it.
Can't.
I don't know enough about the WNBA.
Can't.
But I just know that professional sports is starting to.
Is Caitlin
suck.
Clark, is she going to be the next Jordan for that league and transform the WNBA and be that player that just takes it to
If the other players let her, stop beating her up. If the other players let her and embrace her, yeah.
Yeah, but think about this. Jordan got beaten up pretty good early in
Yeah, he
his
did.
career. you
But it
know?
wasn't because of his skin color, or
No,
because
it was just because he could do things that nobody else could do.
And the NBA didn't have the rules they have today.
Which, by the way,
I can't watch an NBA game with Curry shooting from half court. I'm like, what is this?
bring back fights, okay?
Bring back fights.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
understand why the NBA is so worried about guys getting upset, because if you play a physical brand of basketball with pushing and shoving, punches are going to be thrown. In fact, you look at the greats, right? And that Bird, Magic, Jordan, Isaiah, all of them, even, Barkley, they were all involved
They're
in
in
scraps. It was no big deal. It was just a fight. Okay, they
We
threw some
forgot it's
punches, then
over
they're
with.
done.
Right.
That's it.
Julius Erving got into a fight with Julius Erving.
I know.
That's why I can't watch
But
it.
what's going to happen to the NBA? I mean, it's
I
pathetic.
don't care. I hope it disappears.
It's
My
pathetic.
life
Yeah, and the
doesn't
NBA
change at
and the
all.
ratings are down. Nobody cares right now. The NBA's got a real problem. They got to try to figure this out pretty quickly, because what's going
You
to
want to
happen
fix the
is
NBA? Get rid of the 3-point shot. Get that out of there. Now we can play basketball.
yeah, because that's true. What's happened is that the NBA has become 80% of every offense is a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
Oh, and don't forget, you know what? I know you're making $100 million, but take these next 5 or 6 games off.
Yeah.
Let me get
Oh,
this
yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
Load management.
Load
those two words.
management?
And I don't
Tell
know.
Michael Jordan he's got load management.
Can you imagine? Now, this was, I think Greg Popovich invented this. I really do. I think he was the one in San Antonio that might have started this with Duncan years ago. I forget how it originated and who originated it. But that's got to be the biggest crock.
I don't know where
Because
that came from.
think about this, too. NBA tickets are not cheap. To go watch an NBA game for a
Right.
family of 4, it's probably going
Right.
to cost you $1,000.
Right.
So can you imagine if you buy tickets months in advance to take your family, and then you show up, and the players you want to see are resting purposely because they don't want to overexert themselves per their
Right.
coach? You know how stupid that is?
Okay, hang on. You go watch U2. You bought tickets to U2. That is your favorite band.
And Bono
And
doesn't
your
sing.
son, you show up and Bono, you know what? I don't feel like singing tonight.
Yeah.
I want my money back.
Yeah.
How do you not
Exactly.
get your money back?
Yeah.
My son's, being hypothetical, my son's favorite player, Joel, your son's favorite player is LeBron James. Steve's a busy guy. He's got the radio thing, right?
Is
The
LeBron
sales
James
thing,
your kid's
right?
favorite?
No.
LeBron James is coming to town. So Steve goes out. He goes online, whatever. Okay, it's a December game. It's the most expensive month of the year. Christmas presents. But you know what? For Christmas, I'm getting Joel tickets to go watch LeBron. Okay, they're $100 each. Let's just say.
Yep.
I don't even know what the prices are because I can't stand the NBA. But let's just say they're $100 each. That's $400, right? I still got to get there. I got to park. And I know he's going to want to eat everything he sees at the concession stand, right? You show up. LeBron's got his load management. He's not playing. You need to get your money back.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I agree. I'm totally agree with you. By the way, his favorite player was Jordan because my son, I raised him the right way. I said, before you watch all new stuff, start getting become more appreciative of,
Yeah,
of
this
what
is
was like,
basketball.
back
Right.
when I was growing up. So, professional wrestling. He had to watch the 1980s before he got to the new stuff. Okay, he knew more about. He knew this was an 8-year-old kid who knew more about Hulk Hogan's title reign, Ric Flair, the Freebirds, Macho Man, Andre the Giant. No other kid knew any of this stuff. He came in. He was an encyclopedia. Same thing with sports. Same thing with basketball. I made him appreciate it. He watched Michael Jordan's "Come Fly with Me" video. Saw him. He's like, so for his birthday one year, he got himself a Michael Jordan jersey. It's the only basketball jersey he owns. So if you ask him who's your favorite basketball player, he'll tell you Michael Jordan. Baseball's interesting. He likes Fernando Tatis Jr. The scandal bothered him. The PED bothered him.
Yeah.
But he's still a big Tatis fan. And as far as football goes, I mean, I couldn't even begin to tell you. He roots for some of the same teams I do. So
How old
he's
is
a
he?
Jets fan. He's 12.
He's 12. So
Yeah.
started
Are you a
watching-
Jets fan?
I am. I'm a Jets diehard, and it's like the Cowboys, except the Jets were never good. They were good in the late 60s. That was it, okay? And it's sad that my adult life, my entire life has been spent without any Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable to think about.
I know,
it.
but Testaverde got them close.
No,
And-
he didn't get them close. You know who got him close? Sanchez.
Sanchez did. Sanchez
had
did.
back-to-back
Denver?
AFC championship
Was it
games.
Denver AFC Championship? Testaverde? My point is the Jets
Yeah.
were
I think Pittsburgh might
were
have been
good.
one.
When you
Yeah.
say good, you mean you don't get any rings. But the Jets had some nice teams: Gastineau, Klecko.
Yeah, that's when I started watching
Yeah.
them in the early 80s. Freeman
God,
McNeil,
am I
Wesley
that old?
Walker.
I'm that old.
Richard
Steve saying, I
Todd.
think I remember those guys.
Yes.
You
I
have
remember those
you have
guys.
Don
Yeah.
Maynard in the Hall of Fame,
Oh, yeah.
no doubt.
No, he retired as the all-time leading receiver in the history of pro football.
Who-
And we're
talking
talking
about
about Don Maynard, and we're talking about all this
He's
money.
the most underrated NFL player ever.
And
He's
we're-
the only receiver that I know of that played in the 60s with a football helmet that had one bar
One
on
bar.
his face mask.
He had
One
Theismann.
bar.
He had Theismann.
and he didn't wear a
Yes.
chin strap, I don't think.
No,
I don't think
and he
so.
also modified his shoulder pads.
Yeah.
I mean, he talked about he cut them to make them more.
Yeah,
to
I've
make
got
them
cut
faster.
jerseys of his.
Yes.
What did he do?
He cut the sleeves off his jerseys.
He cut the sleeves off his jerseys, and he modified his shoulder pads where it gave him more freedom to move his arms and catch the football. Essentially, what he said is, hit me whatever you want to hit me. I will make sure that I can do things that nobody else was doing.
And we're
Oh, yeah.
talking about NIL and all this money.
God,
In
what
the
a
off season,
stud.
he was a plumber.
Yes. And a good one.
Yeah, but he was a freaking plumber, man.
Yeah,
Listen, here's the thing. Let me say something about Don Maynard. And his son Scott's awesome. I mean, Don would call this show the first 10 years I was hosting Sports Talk. So figure late 90s to probably mid to late 2000s. He would call the show. He was Don from the West Side. The guy's in the friggin' Hall of Fame. He would never say I'm Don Maynard. It's Don from the West Side. He would call the show and he would talk about how it drove him nuts to watch football these days and how all these receivers would run patterns on third down and long, and they would run patterns that would be short of the first down marker.
Yeah.
He's like, how can you possibly get a first down on 3rd and 10 when you're running a 7-yard out and not a 12-yard out. And it would bother him, and he would vent on the show, and it was amazing. I'm just listening to Don Maynard, and that was because he grew up in a different time. And, it's why he said he never ran one pattern for the Jets his entire career with Joe Namath that was ever short of a first down marker. He always knew where that first down marker was every time he went out for a pass.
Okay, so you're making my point. That's a football player. Today's guys are great athletes, not good football players. We're out of time, though.
So Scott is part of the best memorabilia transaction I've ever made.
Oh,
Scott Maynard.
Quickly, yeah.
I traded Scott. I got Don Maynard's all-decade jersey in exchange for a horse. I got rid of a horse. And I got a jersey.
That's the thing. And by the way, that's the best way to ever end the podcast right there. That is the ultimate.
Say goodbye, Doug. We're out of time.
Thanks for watching.